The True Ambition podcast with John Zink is brought to you by IT Avalon. IT Avalon, IT staffing and professional services done right. Visit our sponsor at itavalon.com. Now, welcome to True Ambition.
Welcome to the True Ambition podcast. My name is John Zink, and I'm sitting here with my friend Clayton Stroope.
Hello, John.
Hello. Very, very nice for you to join us today. It's actually awesome.
Thanks, buddy.
Bing. So Clayton is a singer and songwriter from a group called City Wolf.
Yes, sir.
And born in Fremont, California.
Yes, sir.
Lives in Rockland, California.
Yes, sir.
And married to a beautiful woman named Jenna.
Yep.
What's the name of her photography studio?
Jaybird Photography, J-A-E Photography. Yeah.
So we have beautiful pictures on our wall of a 7-day-old Johnny.
Yep.
And they are freaking awesome. So if somebody wants some great pictures of family, kids, mostly kids, right?
It's mostly newborn, but she does like maternity. She doesn't do weddings anymore, but maternity, family, and babies. Babies are like her forte.
I bet you weddings are the biggest pain in the ass ever.
You know what? She did a few in the beginning, and yeah, she said she doesn't like the pressure, and I think with the babies, people are in such a glow honeymoon period that they just kind of let her do her thing and her artistry and stuff. But with weddings, it's like, they know what they want, and they're
like, we're only gonna be married for a few years, so we need to get this right.
This isn't gonna last long, so make us look good.
So I got this picture with Johnny, and 7 days old. He's like sitting in my hand. I'm just thinking the whole time, this kid's gonna crap right in my hand.
Yeah. Sometimes those shots are epic, though.
It's the coolest picture I've ever seen. It's awesome.
Probably not funny. I just thought it was an interesting choice. Somebody they had a Donald Trump. It was a bust of Donald Trump as a beer tap, and the baby was laying in this. She wraps him up, like a little pea in a pod, and he was holding the beer tap with Donald, and she's just editing it. She's like, well, this is what they wanted, whatever.
So then, son Jeffrey,
yep,
10 years old.
Yep.
Presley,
yep,
6 years old.
Ooh, yep.
And Parker,
4. I lose track.
It's a busy household,
and I lose count. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So we were talking earlier. How in the hell are you dealing with all of the COVID teaching and schooling and all that kind of stuff?
The most difficult aspect is probably the 1,000 emails a week that I get from the various teachers, login instructions, Zoom, Google Classroom. Now, I guess it depends on what county you're in, but now they're hybrid. So it's like they're home half the time and at school the other half. And it's almost more complicated now than when they were just at home. But
so they have to go to school part of the time?
Yeah.
And stay home part of the time?
Right. And it is kind of eerie. Like you go by an elementary school, seeing all these little 7-year-olds running around wearing masks, playing dodgeball. It's this apocalyptic vibe to it. That's weird. But I was thinking early on when it first happened is I don't know what the hell some people are doing. When I was a kid, both my parents worked. So yeah, we just would have been SOL. I would have got to skip 4th grade.
Well, I was just thinking about when you're talking about having a mask on while playing dodgeball. I've got a cartoon of a dodgeball just smashing a kid in the side of the face that somebody else just threw with their hand. Yeah. And that's not going to get anybody sick.
No. Well, that's the other thing, too. A lot of the rules. I mean, I feel like they're doing the best they can, but a lot of the stuff, you see the rules that they send home, do this, don't do that. And this stuff contradicts each other. And it's like,
and these are kids.
Well, kids are all picking their nose and eating their boogers anyway.
What if that's the cure?
Yeah. We realized that a daily diet of large boogers.
Oh my gosh. So the intro music that you guys just heard
great song is powerful song.
Yeah, it's by the voice sounds familiar.
Sure.
And that's actually a great song by City Wolf.
Yep.
And by Clayton here. So we appreciate you letting us use that.
Anytime. I have an interesting story behind that song that I don't even know if you know.
What is it?
So I'm sure we can get into it. But so I write these for licensing primarily. I have work with a few companies in LA, and they reached out to me and the producer, and they said that the Men in Black 3, that was the last one that came out, I think. And then there was a girl, she was one of the people. Men in Black 3 was coming out, in the release in China was coming out, and they wanted a trailer song for the release in China. So that's what I wrote it for. And they said, we want to rap in it. It's called a brief in the licensing world. They'll give you a brief. And it's like, okay, we want these aspects. Sometimes it pigeonholes you, and you're like, nope, we've got to say Coca-Cola, whatever. And then sometimes it's so vague that it's almost, like, what are they really looking for? But this one was pretty clear. So we did the rap, had the melodic part. If you listen to the bridge part, I say, I talk about having black shades on, okay, protector. Yeah. We thought it was perfect. And, but they didn't like it for whatever reason. So I just released it as City Wolf, and there you go.
It's a great song, and those guys are idiots.
Yeah. Last time I ever see a movie over there.
So who are you working with on that record?
It's just me and one other guy. The Under is his producer name. Really nice guy named Trevor. He was the first producer that I started working with when I kind of went down this particular route in music. And, we just me and him. And, nowadays, as long as, if somebody can play between two people, if one person can sing, one person can kind of play piano, and one person can play guitar, you can pretty much do everything. Even if you don't know how to play piano, there's programs, you just tell it the progression and everything. So we basically cheated.
Well, there's a lot of that going on today. Luckily, you've got an amazing voice, so there's no cheating on that. So you and I have known each other for a few years.
Yeah.
And we're going to be very honest about it here. You and I both met in a 12-step recovery program.
We did.
And
we did. You took me under your wing and said, "Come here, son."
I saved my life by being in that program. Yeah. Otherwise, I'd be dead. There'd be no podcast today.
Sure.
And we'll talk more about that. Tell me about your childhood.
I mean, childhood was pretty normal. I was kind of just very middle class family.
Did you grow up in Fremont?
Yeah, Fremont, beautiful Fremont. Both parents worked, and I think most of the music stuff I really got from my dad. I can remember because he's pretty OCD. Him cleaning the house on Saturday mornings, so like the smell of like Pine Sol and like Led Zeppelin combined.
Pine Zeppelin.
Yeah. Because he just got up and was, cleaning. And then we had this record player, and he'd put the record on and then lean the album up against the speaker cabinet. So that's really, Foreigner, Led Zeppelin, ZZ Top, Boston, Bad Company, that era, which is also kind of formed my impression of how you sing, right?
I can hear a lot of Foreigner.
Yeah.
I mean, Lou
Journey.
Graham, I can hear that in your voice a lot when you're singing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. There are a lot of singing now if it's like indie or alternative, it's almost like anti-singing, like, which was like the Strokes or like the Killers, like almost a little out of tune, out of time. Well, I guess the Cars were a little like that.
Yeah, they had that little bit of punk influence.
Kasich. Yeah. But that was I always really felt like you needed, you're the front man, belt it out, So the genre stuff I'm doing now is appropriate, it works. So
So did you play any instruments?
I can play guitar. I cannot sing and play guitar at the same time. Oh, I can? To write something?
Can you chew gum?
No.
And walk? Yeah. No?
One will suffer if I try and do that. But I mean, I can I can sing to write something. Usually I just find the root. I will write as if I'm playing a bass. I just, I don't care. I just,
Well, you and I have known each other for a while. I played drums, but every time I pick up a guitar, nothing good happens.
But see, you can sing and play drums at the same time.
It took me a long, long time to do it. And it's because I grew up in a really small town and nobody else played music. So it's either you get out there and do it yourself.
So when you started, you had like the bass drum on your back and you were like...
I had the cymbals between my legs.
Yeah.
Crash!
Yeah, but I've seen you playing. You're not playing no Don Henley drums. Like you're like legit.
No, one of the hardest songs that I ever learned to play and sing at the same time was "Sober" by Tool, and it's like it's so many different rhythms going on at the same time while you're singing. I mean, it took me months to get it done, and once I was done, I can still do it to this day because the muscle memory is just there. And it won't go away.
What's his name? Danny Carey?
Oh my God.
That's why he doesn't sing.
No way.
Son, good luck.
Yeah. And Sober is one of the only Tool songs I can play.
Well, they don't change time signatures in that one, right?
No.
Yeah.
It's straightforward.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
So, who are your favorite singers?
Oh man. I mean, I guess I would just have to refer back to the list I gave earlier. I mean, it was like, Lou Gramm, Paul Rogers, Bad Company. Maybe Paul Rogers, because I can hang note for note through a Bad Company song. Depending on which Led Zeppelin, where you're at, or even Journey, I can kind of start and then I got to stop, and take some breaks. Although I found out that was it on Houses of the Holy, they sped a lot of that up.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So he wasn't really singing that high, I don't think. Or in speeding it up, it just made his tone sound higher. Something like that.
That's interesting because Paul Rogers, I mean, he was in Free.
Right.
Before that, I mean, so good.
And I don't know if you've seen any recent, I mean, he looks great. He sounds exactly the same.
Amazing. I watched it on Access TV.
Yeah.
And it was probably only a couple years old.
Yeah.
Because, of course, now with COVID, there's no music.
Yeah.
No live music anyway. And he was just amazing.
You just have people sign a waiver. Just like, give me COVID. I want to see Led Zeppelin,
Right?
I don't know.
Well, maybe Zeppelin will come back together just to play one of those COVID shows.
Yeah. Yeah, we should have like a live aid, like a COVID aid, and have everybody.
I think people are just sick of it.
Yeah.
Maybe Thriving Ivory.
Ain't gonna be no Thriving Ivory reunion.
Okay, let's talk about Thriving Ivory. So, how did the band form?
So, when I was 19 or 20, I moved to Santa Barbara, which was a good place for a guy like me who was into the type of activities that I was into when I was 19. Good place to live for that. And I stayed at this house, and the way we lived in Isla Vista, which is in Goleta, which is where all the college kids live. Okay. And it's just dense. It's thousands of kids, and we lived. They just stack them in these houses. We lived, and there was like 9 guys, like 2 bathrooms. It was disgusting. In the back room is where Scott, the piano player, and he had a vocal booth built out of wood back there, and I kind of knew what it was right when I walked in, and then we struck up a conversation. Do you record? He goes, yeah, and he played me some of his stuff, and I don't know who was singing on it, but I was like, oh man, I can sing better than that.
That guy sucks.
Yeah, that guy sucks, bro. So that was it. We just started making little songs and stuff, and then I remember walking around, putting up flyers, tear off flyers, looking for a drummer. We found our guitar player Drew working in a coffee shop. And that's how we started, just playing there. And I remember thinking we had made it. Like we were talking about, your band history and stuff, and the small town where you came from. And Isla Vista is super small. It's just college kids. And I remember playing parties and stuff. And we would play out to the street on these decks, you know, and there'd be a couple hundred kids would amass, you know, and I just remember feeling like, we made it, bro, you know, VH1 behind the music, you know, and then the first time we went to LA to play and there was like negative people there, you know, it was just like reality check, you know.
Well, that's where you earn your chops.
Yeah, and LA, I mean, I don't know if it's like this anymore, but a lot of these places, unless you're an established act, is like pay to play.
Yeah.
So you buy your tickets up front, you know. And I remember having to do that, being like, oh, whatever, you know, they don't recognize artistry, you know. No. But then that's eventually why we moved back to the Bay Area, which is where all of us were from, was because
So all of you guys were from the Bay Area?
Yeah.
And all met down there?
Yeah. Basically, yeah, except for Scott was from Orange County.
Okay.
And that's kind of why we moved back up, because we had started to play really good shows in the Bay Area, and it was just a little more diluted. It wasn't as concentrated as like LA.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, I mean, it sucked at first. I mean, I remember playing at bars, just playing on the ground. When people are right there, you're right in people's faces, you know, drinks spilling on you. This one place we used to play, there was a cigarette machine right behind us, so people would walk through us over the drum riser, you know, and poor Paul, Margot, you need change? You
was
know?
that Dan's?
Yeah, before they had the little stage. Yeah, exactly. It was.
Oh, yeah.
They don't have that cigarette machine there anymore.
No, it's not there anymore.
Yeah. And eventually Saul and them built a little stage. But, you know, I remember Paul playing and people coming up, you know, squeezing in behind him.
Hey, give me a Marlboro Light, please.
Yeah. You know, we playing at a Chinese buffet one time. We didn't realize till we got there. And that was always a moment of like tension, like especially when we started touring nationally and we were going places where we knew we weren't on the radio there, or maybe we had just gotten on the radio. I'm skipping like several years here of depression and like wondering what I'm doing with my life. But rolling into a town and before hitting the venue, you know, crossing our fingers like, oh my God, please don't be a dive. Please don't be a dive. You know, because we'd pull up and it'd say like throwing Ivory one time in Syracuse.
A picture of somebody throwing a tusk.
Yeah, or it's just spelled completely wrong, or the date's wrong, you know, and just being like, damn it, you know, you're 1,000 miles from home, you know. Yes, I mean, it was brutal. I mean, not brutal. We were having a blast, but it was definitely tough in the beginning because we had an old school manager. He was one of the original owners of Bill Graham Presents.
Oh, wow.
So he partnered with Bill Graham eventually, and then continued there after once he died, obviously. But he managed Train and Gin Blossoms, and Eddie Money was his like big claim to, you know. Mm-hmm. And so he was old school, man. I remember him telling us that we needed to get on the MySpace. This new thing, the MySpace, you know, and we'd be like, dude, it's been out like for years, nobody uses it, you know. And but he was just big on like the organic, get in the van.
Yeah.
You know. And that's what we did. Yeah.
Well, that's how everybody gets good.
Yeah, too, right? You're not really rehearsing at that point anymore. It's just every night you
go out there and you do the deal.
Stuff backwards and forwards. Yeah, totally.
So who did you guys sign with? So
we showcased, and for anybody that doesn't know what that is, that's when you build up enough, and I even hate this word because he used to say it all the time too, buzz. He'd always, you know, we need to build a buzz in the Santa Rosa area. He was always obsessed with the Santa Rosa area.
He used the word buzz like I use the word awesome.
Yeah. So, what happened was Live 105 first K-Fog. Is K-Fog even around anymore?
I don't even know.
Okay. 104.5, I think was K-Fog. They played a song first of ours, which wasn't our good song, I thought. And then Live 105, Aaron Axelson somehow got a hold of Angels on the Moon, and put it in regular rotation with all the other stuff. It wasn't like the midnight disc jockey, you know, here's a new band.
4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, for all you millions listening out there. They put it in regular rotation. So it's even played like 4 or 5 times a day. And then we started playing bigger shows. So we did like the Fillmore, Great American Music Hall, Slim's, which I think is closed now.
I think it is.
Yeah. Then the record companies, A&R people start sniffing around. We showcased for Atlantic, flew us to New York 3 times. So first we played for the A&R guy, then we played for the A&R staff, then we played for the A&R staff plus the guy and the gal that run the show over there, Craig Kalman and Judy something. And they just said no. So
thanks for coming.
We flew back. Roadrunner, which
I remember Roadrunner. That was
I don't know if they're
they were a huge metal.
Nickelback was their big.
Okay.
We showcased for Roadrunner twice. Once for the A&R guy, once for their team. Nope. Showcased for Hollywood Records, which is Disney. Columbia. And then finally, Wind Up Records, which was Creed, Evanescence, Finger 11. And so they were a heavier, more active rock type, right? Mm-hmm. And we showcased for them. And at the end of it, their dynamic there was a little different. It was a husband and wife duo, and they just owned the label, so they could do whatever the hell they wanted. So, and they were a colorful combo, the two of them. And we went out to dinner afterwards, and they just said, "We're going to sign you guys," so that was it. So that kind of kicked things into high gear, because then we had to finish the record and shot a video, and then once the single was out, we got on VH1 and had our videos on VH1, and then we really started touring nationally in North America, at least, and that's when all hell broke loose, Johnny.
Well, so explain to me the writing process for Thriving Ivory. Was it just you and Scott? Was his name Scott?
Yes. Very different than how I'm doing it now. At the time I didn't know any better. And you'd probably hear from a lot of bands, and they would probably admit that no band dynamic is going to work if it's a complete democracy. Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't think you can put 4 or 5 guys in a room and just say, okay, what do you want to play here? Perfect. What do you want to play? And you'll end up with the best product.
Right.
Because, you got to do, and you know this from drumming, you got to do what serves the song. Like, of course, Carter Buford could throw in some crazy solo right in the middle of the second verse, but it might kill the song, Right. So if a perfect democracy was one end of the spectrum, and then like a dictatorship was the other end, we were probably closer to the other end, meaning that everything started on the piano with the piano player. Then he would show it to me, like once it's like done. Okay, here's what I just did. And then I would sing it, get comfortable with it, maybe suggest a couple little changes here or there. and then basically everyone else had to kind of fit into that mold of what already existed.
Right.
And we got good at making parts. They got good at making parts for themselves that worked well within that, So it wasn't always a struggle, but it definitely wasn't, let's all get together and just do what we want, Now with the stuff that I'm doing, is way different. It would start with me, and I will either just write totally from scratch, or another cool way to do it is I'll ask the producer, whoever I'm working with, to send me a track. A lot of these guys, they get so prolific at it that they can make these. Especially the guy that I'm working with now, he does a lot of the theme music for Titan games and American Ninja Warrior. So he's got these like epic tracks just sitting around, and they're just instrumental, And so he'll just send me stuff, and I'll write on top of it.
Reminds me of I did 2 different bands where I was writing the original stuff. Like I said before, I play drums.
Yeah.
Now guitar or keyboard.
Yeah.
So it's really just me singing over a rhythm in my head.
Yeah.
But I would sit down with a guitar player or a keyboard and just say, start playing this. And then I would have an idea for something. So it sounds like it was pretty similar.
Yeah. 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 And it's interesting because I can't play piano. I can play guitar. I'm an average guitar player, but I don't know song theory. Like I don't know. Half the time, like you, a lot of times it'll happen to me when I'm driving. So I think you kind of go into this like subconscious mode. Yeah. You know, you're driving for an hour and you realize you haven't been paying attention. You know, and so it'll hit me a lot of times in those situations, and I don't know what. I have to go home then and pick up a guitar and be like, okay, wait, what was I doing?
Right.
Okay, wait, no, that doesn't work. You know.
You ever had that thing where you're driving and you can't remember the last 30 minutes of what you drove by or how you drove to where you're at?
Yeah. Yeah. Used to have it a lot when I was younger.
So I was going through the interweb, the worldwide interweb.
The WWW.
And
as my grandma would say.
You were produced by Howard Benson. I was looking into that.
He was a homie that we worked with.
Kelly Clarkson, Hoobastank, POD, Daughtry.
Yeah.
What do producers like that do for a band?
So, you know, it's so different even now. So that was 10 years ago. What happened was, so we had our demo of our single, Angels on the Moon. I'm going to say the song title over and over so I can make like an extra 10 cents on Spotify. Angels on the Moon. And the record label wanted to see if the songs were done, but they wanted to see if they could beat it.
Right.
Because we literally recorded it in our guitar player's basement on his mom's piano with a really cool guy named Chris Manning, who was in a band called the Jellyfish. Do you remember the Jellyfish?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Amazing.
He was a bass player. Him and his brother. His brother was a keyboard player who's Beck's keyboard player now.
That's the King is Half Undressed. That's Jellyfish, right?
The King is Half Undressed, and the drummer sang.
Love that song.
Yeah, so Chris is the bass player. Awesome producer, really awesome guy. And we did it like the OG way. Like we went up and recorded in this cabin and we did vocals there and then we did piano and pieced it all together. And the label went and had us go work with Howard Benson, who was at the time, I don't know what he does now, but he was a massive producer. He did like Kelly Clarkson and like you said, Chris Daughtry, Seether. I had just done that Daughtry record with, blow it away, you know?
Yeah.
And so we thought it was awesome. You know, we rolled in and, we got there into his studio and everything was taped off. The drum set stayed there, never moved. That was our live room, everything, and we plug in and he goes, okay. He wasn't even there. It was us and his engineer, who was a really cool guy named Mike. He engineered, so he worked with Bob Rock in Canada, who did like,
Metallica.
Yeah. Our Lady Peace. He did the Our Lady Peace, the Gravity record. I remember because we wanted a sample. And we ended up using a kick sample that he had from Bob Rock anyway, another day. So we go into the live room and he goes, okay, you guys run through Angels on the Moon. Run through the song or whatever.
Bing.
Yeah, bing. 0.0001 cents. Actually, Spotify per stream, it's like 0.000. It's like thousandth place, even if further.
So every 1,000 plays, you get a penny?
Oh my God. Yeah. It's silly. And so we run through the song, or the band did. I think I was just singing on a talkback mic or something. And one time, and they finished, and he goes, okay, guys, that's drums. We're done with that. Let's go ahead and get bass. So they're just tracking, okay? And we one rough time through, and they were tracking drums, and that was it. Poor Paul, he was done. And they just exported that raw those drum files to a guy in a trailer who had Pro Tools open, and he just lined everything up, laid samples underneath, and that was it. So it wasn't a great experience. It felt very like a little factory,
Yeah.
And what was interesting is the version that we got back, we just felt like it was so like bombastic and over the top. Guitar bombs, pan left, and we didn't use it. So the one that ended up being the single on the radio nationally and on the video was our demo, basically.
Out of the basement.
Yeah. And we did keep the other two songs that we did with him, but that one in particular, we just felt like it lost something,
So when you were featured on VH1.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite movies is The Wonders.
Yeah.
When they hear their song on the radio and they're running down the street. Oh my God, that just happened. I mean, is that how you feel when something like that happens with VH1? Your video's on there?
Yeah, for sure. I had broken up with a girl like 6 months before, and this is such a shallow little victory looking back on it. I had broken up with a really nice girl, and we had broken up, and she texted me one morning. She said, because I don't even know if they still play videos, but VH1 used to play videos kind of in the morning and then in the afternoon. And she texted me, she goes, I just saw your video. Come on, VH1, or something, and I was like, yes. But yeah, it's definitely weird at first, and then awesome. But and then that's when we really started touring, and we were pretty much gone for a couple years. You come home for a couple weeks at a time and then go back out.
So you guys also performed on Jimmy Kimmel and Rachel Ray.
Yeah.
What's that like, performing? I performed on like cable access. I swear to God, it was like Wayne's World, and you couldn't hear anything. You couldn't do anything. Yeah. Was it that kind of situation for you guys?
Horrible sound.
Yeah.
Horrible sound. A lot of the stuff they have up there, the amps and stuff, it's just for looks, really, because I think everything is going like DI in, and they're mixing it all in the back end or something. So, yeah. And then just super stale. Because a lot of bands, when they come on, they're unknown. And this is that's one way they get known, is by coming on and doing a performance. And so you almost feel like it's like they've dragged the crowd out of their seats and brought in like 30 of them into this little other room to watch you. And it's just super stale and cold. Like, nobody knows the song. What's really tricky too is they ask you to trim the song. So we had to cut the song from like 350 down to like 230. So it's like, I think we skipped the second verse and just went right to the bridge. I remember it just being super weird.
Which part of your song don't you want to play? Yeah, trick question.
Yeah.
It's all good.
You're talking to a real artist, Jimmy. Yeah, I mean, those experiences, they were cool, but it was nothing like playing a real show.
Yeah.
And the hosts and stuff, like, they're so busy. And then imagine, think Letterman, he sees a different band every night, He's never going to see something where he's, blows him away and he comes over and talks to you and invites you over for dinner. I don't even think we met Jimmy Kimmel. Maybe we did Rachel Ray.
Yeah.
She cooked us some fried zucchini or something. I don't know.
Here's some fried. Yeah. You guys are great. Here's some fried zucchini.
Yeah.
So did you travel all over the world?
Just North America, really. I mean, we played in Cozumel once because we did a VH1 cruise.
Okay.
Which is all interesting and awkward because you're trapped on a cruise boat with people, So there's like nowhere to go. But that was fun. But just, North America. I mean, every state, and then all the big towns the big cities in Canada. I don't think we ever played in Nebraska or South Dakota. Those are the only two.
You missed out.
I know. Yeah. Someday.
Go Big Red.
Yeah.
That's all it says in Nebraska. Go Big Red. I drove through there when I was 13 years old, going to Wyoming to visit family. And it's flat.
Yeah.
And everything says Go Big Red. That's all I remember.
What's Big Red? Is it
that's
their college?
That's their college, yeah. I thought it was gum. I love cinnamon.
That's right.
But it wasn't. It was Go Big Red for their team.
Go Juicy Fruit. Is it I guess where would you play? Lincoln, Nebraska, I guess would be the
Omaha?
Yeah.
But that's right over the border from Iowa.
No, I'm thinking Wichita. We definitely played Wichita.
When did things start getting out of control as far as drinking?
Yeah.
Partying?
Jeez. I mean,
that kind of stuff.
I don't want to shock your audience here.
Oh, my God.
No, I had a propensity towards that anyway, from the time I was in high school to excess and really liked being in the band and being the lead singer. Was just was like the perfect storm for me. Every night, it's kind of like being a pirate. You go to a town, play your show, wreck shop, do whatever you want, and then you get
pillage.
You can get up the next day and you're play that guitar solo, and you're out, to the next town, and waking up in hotel bathrooms, passed out in the shower, you know, and you get up the next morning, ha ha ha, and everyone's laughing. And remember what, you know, Clayton did last night. And so it's kind of, you know, in a weird way, it's like part of the,
it's what you do.
It's what you do, you know? I mean, I remember driving to a Starbucks one morning with the radio rep who was going to take us into the radio station to go play, you know, and happened to pull over and hurl on the side of the road and then just get back in and then walked into the radio station. Don't tell me if I'm dying, you know? Yeah, I mean, it was always out of control. I mean, even when we started in Santa Barbara, it was like the party was on before we even hit the road, you know? And so it would just depend how many people were at the show, you know? If there was a whole bunch, you know, then it was a party, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, so, I mean, I don't know, man. I look back on it now and it's like, you know, if we did have further success past that, or even it got more intense, who knows what would have happened?
Probably death.
Yes. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you watch.
We laugh at it. It's probably the truth.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. I mean, I passed out in bathtubs full of water, you know? And, you know, no wonder these, you know, Morrison, Hendrix, they were up like 27, right?
Yeah.
I was 26, 27, you know? It's about how long it takes, like, you know?
Well, we're indestructible.
Right.
You know, nothing's going to get me.
Right.
You know, I mean, I don't know what age I was, but I mean, passed out under a stage, on stage, under the drum riser during a show.
Were you still singing?
La, 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 la. That's about all I could get out of my mouth, you know, and then they, for some reason, the band broke up the next day.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Jerks.
Yeah. But, you know, everything happens for a reason. And, you know, I look back on that almost the same way you do and go, well, looking back on it now, thank God it ended up the way it did.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wouldn't trade it, you know. Most of the time I had a blast, you know. There was definitely plenty of mornings sprinkled in there where I just felt like, you know, a walking POS, you know, or horrible anxiety, you know, 2,000 miles away from home. You know, but I mean, the writing was on the wall, you know, going back to like the band dynamic and how we would write that top down structure, permeated every other aspect too. I mean, it was just a bad situation. And I was always kind of in the middle. I was kind of like the peacemaker. And so I would kind of arbitrate between sides, you know, and that was exhausting too.
Right.
But, you know, but, you know, and then Jeffrey was born and it kind of sucked me out of, you know, kind of put a period on that phase, you know, and I had to go get a real job.
Time to grow up.
Yep. So I started Avalon. No.
So the question before we get out of there is, this is a serious one. Did you have any specific stuff on your band rider? Go.
Dude. Yeah. I mean, we joke about it now. I'm still really close with guitar player and drummer. And, we joke about it. We joke about it now, but I mean, dude, legit, and Jenna could tell you, you know, there was times when I'd be in tears, like flying back from New York because some drama had been started or cooked up, and you know, not that it's substance wise, not that he was any worse than me, right? So I can point fingers at that, but it was just the mental, emotional stuff. And then all the songs just started sounding the same, you know, Everything's halftime, super metaphorical. And I just can't understand. Like, I'd be like, bro, if I don't know what you're talking about here,
how is anybody else?
You know, I can't find the beat, you know. I think there was this like desire to really want to sound like an Adam Duritz type Counting Crows thing, you know. Yeah. So I'd constantly be like trying to find the beat, you know, the rhythm, you know, and why I really appreciate what I'm doing now. Because it gives me the freedom and I can just do stuff, you know.
Yeah, Adam Duritz, that whole Counting Crows thing, not my deal.
No?
No, I went in and...
have you seen him live?
I saw Live
Yeah.
open up for the Counting Crows.
Yeah.
And I watched Live, who's one of my favorite bands.
And they'll play it how you heard it on the record.
Oh,
which
amazing.
I don't know how other people feel, but that's what I feel people want. And I feel like out of respect, you got to play it what they bought your CD, they bought your concert ticket. And my manager, which is Littman Entertainment, and we've talked, I think you got to have them on here. They manage Matchbox and Rob Thomas, who frequently tours with Counting Crows as a double bill. And he says they don't play anything. Like when they do Mr. Jones, it's Mr. Jones and me. And he just goes off and starts talking. And that would bug me if I went there.
I left right after Live was done. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I've never liked them. They were a little bit too heavy for me, where it's like, wow, you really take yourself seriously. Yeah. And then there's the end of the song goes, yay! Yay! Oh my God. I'm like, what in the hell was that? I just couldn't do it. But
sick drummer though. Like Anna Begins and stuff.
No, it's great musicians. It's just I just couldn't get into it. Personal preference.
See, you know what though? In the 90s, you could get away with that stuff though. You know, this is all open to interpretation, the Tool, everything, you know, even like Bush, you're like, what are they talking about? You know, Live too. It just, the lyrics were deeper, and I don't feel like that really exists anymore. Like you can't really get away.
No, I listen to Live every week. Yeah. I listen to Tool every week.
Well, we did a whole tour with Kowalczyk. We did a whole tour with Ed Kowalczyk. We opened for him.
Oh, dude.
So it was him and a house band or whatever, but they just played all live stuff. Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, I snuck in. I didn't sneak in. I flew down for one day. They were opening up at the Roxy. Yeah. For opening up their tour, it was them and Bush. Yeah. It was about 2 years ago. It was right before my son was born, and I got tickets for their show here, and they said, sign up here to win tickets for the opening. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So they emailed me. So you talking about like the little Roxy? Like small, right? So they sent me an email the next morning. I didn't know I was signing up to get tickets for the next day. Oh. So they said, you won. Did you go? I talked to Carissa, my wife, and said, hey, oh man, I got this email. Dang it. Yeah, darn it. And she goes, what are you talking about? I said, well, if you don't mind. And she allowed me to go. I went down there. I stood in line at Tower Records, felt like a kid. And I got 6 people away from getting my ticket. And they said, oh, all the tickets are gone. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? And you flew down there? Flew down there. So I'm standing in line. And K-Rock was giving away tickets in this other line. Yeah. And nobody was showing up off of the giveaways from the radio station. Yeah. Or the satellite station, whatever. So came back about 6 hours later, got my ticket from K-Rock. But while I was waiting, I went to Roxy. And I got to meet Chad, the drummer from Live. I met Ed. I met all these guys up there. Went in. I was standing right in front and watched that show. They only played 6 songs. Yeah. But I was standing right in front of Patrick, the bass player. Yeah. And I get this big black hand right on my shoulder. I'm like, turn around. Dennis Rodman. What? Yeah. I got video of him dancing on stage. That's crazy. He goes, hey, big guy, give me a shove on stage. So Dennis Rodman called me big guy. It was awesome. So it was a great day. And again, I went down there, and when Bush started, I just left. I had to go because I had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and fly back up here. Yeah. But it was amazing. Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that that 80s into mid 80s into mid 90s music was so good. For sure. Yeah. And there was so much meaning behind it. Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots, all that kind of stuff. I just freaking loved. Jellyfish. Oh, Jellyfish. Hello. I do love that song. Yeah, that's a cool song. Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, one of the cooler things about being on bills with bigger acts, even if we were like the first out of 4, you know, like once it was us, Shinedown, something else, and then Korn, like a really inappropriate, I don't know who put us, you know, because this was in Memphis in May. It was a festival. And I remember walking out with our pianos on stage and just seeing the crowd. And they're like, who are these boys? These pianos, you know, playing before Korn, you know. But what was cool was being able to see like sound check. You know, I remember once we did an acoustic thing with Sarah McLachlan,
and being backstage, and she was in the women's bathroom, and it was this big tile bathroom, so it was echoing, and she was in there warming up, just like, just
that
like,
voice.
Oh my God, that stuff was always really cool.
So that's a good segue into my last question about that band. What was the high point of that band?
The high point for Thriving Ivory was when the song, probably, the last show we did at the Fillmore was awesome. There was like 1,000 people there, at the Fillmore. It's just a historic spot in San Francisco. That was awesome. When the song was really doing well on the radio, there was a couple towns we pulled into, and there was like, a couple thousand people lined up to get in. That was always a trip, random places too. I mean, Salt Lake, Mobile, Alabama. I remember pulling in and just being like, what, who are these people? Wow, what, and then to see, we had been singing that song Angels on the Moon for years at that point, because it was not a new song.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now there's all these people in Mobile singing, it's a little surreal. Yeah, probably the shows. This was, that's why you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I talked about it before. You and I met in a 12-step recovery program.
Right.
Part of what this podcast is about, not part of it, but all this podcast is about, is helping other people out, whether they're looking to find their way through life, through a career, through music, through whatever it is. So True Ambition is actually taken out of one of the books from the program. And it says the true ambition is not what we thought it was. True ambition is the profound desire to live usefully and walk humbly under the grace of God.
I didn't put that 2 and 2 together on that one.
Bing, bang, boom.
Touche.
So what are you doing today to better yourself and make yourself a better person?
It's tricky. I feel like there's a lot of, there's no one. I've never really had like that burning bush moment where I just made the 180 and started levitating, and it's little things along the way. I feel like that I've learned that have all been, looking back now, have all been ingredients and to contribute to what I've been able to do. I just listened to the Matthew McConaughey on Joe Rogan the other day, and it got me super fired up because he seems very similar. That's why I brought him up, and he's talking about little changes that he's making. And I just started, this sounds lame, but I turned my phone off at 9, and I keep it away from my bed, and I go to sleep at 9. And it sounds trivial, but what I notice is that I stop caring less and less about my phone, about checking in. I wake up the next day and I feel better. So that's just an example of little things like that. But I think achieving, well, maybe you can relate to this too. I don't know if it was the way I was raised or if it was instilled in me when I was young, but I maybe you can call it blind ambition in a way. Is I never felt like there was anything that I necessarily wouldn't be able to do, unless it's something, that, I can't go play for the Lakers. I mean, I could. I'd be like the Muggsy Bogues out there, No,
I totally agree with you. So with my business and what I do, I totally agree, because I have, maybe they call it naivety.
Yeah.
Where I don't believe for a second that I can't do what any other company can do.
Yeah.
And I kind of credit my mother for that, because she told me from the time I was born I could do whatever I wanted to. Yeah. Whatever I put my mind to, whatever I worked hard for.
Right.
And I screwed off for many, many years.
Right.
Thinking that I just deserved it.
Right.
You know, I'm probably going to be rich. I don't know.
Yeah. Mama said I can.
Yeah. I was going to be a rock star.
Yeah.
You know, but then you have to go out and work hard and all that other kind of stuff that goes along with it. But yeah, I agree with you.
And it's hard because then again, like within reason, right? I mean, if you can't sing, you know, you might not ever, you know, but what to me, what that means is, you know, yeah, I guess some combination of that blind ambition. And that doesn't mean that I'm not insecure about things, you know, because sometimes I do come back to, or even when we were trying to get a record deal, you know, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Why am I, you know, this is, you know, because I got accepted at UC Santa Barbara and ripped it up and didn't go, you know, oh my God, what am I doing? But little incrementally, I was having little successes that kept moving me forward and pointing me in that direction. And it took us 6 years, I think, to get signed, right? And, but I think that experience and then finally achieving that, and like, you know, we weren't, you know, in sync or some massive global act, but even just achieving what we did, I think imprinted me even further with that kind of sense of optimism in whatever
it's a huge success, you know? So yes, it wasn't in sync. It wasn't Coldplay. It wasn't whatever band, Madonna, whatever band you want to put up there that sells tens of millions. But the number of acts that sell the way that you guys did, is very small. So it's an amazing thing. But the great thing is that the point in your life you're at right now, you can take away the positives from it and learn from it, right? And also take away the negative parts of it and learn from those as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't have to tour, and like, thank God, you know, I mean,
it sounds horrible.
Really, when you break it down, I mean, you say, okay, and when you get a bus, and we thought we had made it when we got our bus, right? We picked up our bus, and then a couple days into having the bus, it dawned on me, we're not going to be showering as much because you've got the bus, so now you're not stopping at hotels, right? You stop at a hotel every 3 or 4 days to do your laundry and shower. Yeah. So in a way, like, it got nastier, but you know, and so then, and when I look back on my life, you know, there really hasn't been anything that I pinpointed and said, this is what I want to do, that, I mean, it sounds cheesy, but that I haven't been able to do. You know, I when the band dissolved and my son was born, I knew I had to get a real job, you know, and my brother was already going to nursing school. So I said, okay, I'm going to nursing school. I have to be a nurse. You know, in the Bay Area, I knew I could graduate and make 6 figures, or, you know, conservatively at Kaiser or something. And so I hustled my butt off. I worked in this crappy call center, which is funny because when the band was trying to make it in Santa Barbara, there was a few call centers inbound because the college turnover rate, the kids was so high that they just had a constant influx of kids to sit there, you know. And we all worked there because it was the only place, if we sold well enough, we could make our own schedule and go tour and stuff. And then when I left the band, I went back to junior college. I had to take all my sciences, everything, and I was working at this crappy call center. Okay. Yeah, I found the school that I wanted to go to. I had to make sure my grades were good enough, you know, so I got straight A's. I got into the school, went there for 2 years, became a nurse, started work, you know, and I was able to support my family. Right. So there's a bunch of stuff sprinkled in there. It's that determination, it's that optimism, some proof that I could reflect back on to be like, that worked, you know, that mindset worked. Keep moving forward. Right. And not to say that there weren't obstacles, you know, financial obstacles.
Isn't it funny though? Because I'm writing this book right now that's also called True Ambition, and I'm looking back on all of those obstacles. Yeah. That I thought at the time were so horrific in my life, and I look back at them now, and it's hardly even a speed bump. the things that absolutely rip my life apart.
Earth shattering.
Yeah. Oh my God. No one would ever understand this. This is the worst.
Right.
And then you look back at it and go, oh my God.
And a lot of them too, you could probably look back on and go, you know what? I'm glad that happened, because what I learned from that, I applied here.
Yeah.
Or what I learned from that, I never did that again.
Yeah.
Right. For sure. You haven't said awesome once, by the way.
Bing.
Yeah. I haven't even heard a supplement for it.
See, no, I know that Ed's going to have that noise that
just make it go off anyway.
Bing. No, what they're talking about is that in the first few episodes of True Ambition podcast, I have found that I say that's awesome a lot. And then they said if I say it anymore, they're going to put a sound effect on there that says bing, bing. So I'm trying to not say it as much.
That could be cool though, because you could have True Ambition, that's awesome. Like merch and, you know,
the
stickers.
T-shirt.
Yeah.
The hat.
Yeah.
The lunchbox.
The J-string.
Where would you print it?
Where do you print it?
On the G-string.
Just on the strip. So you got to turn your head and you really got to get in there. Excuse me, ma'am.
What a great G-string.
Yeah. So I worked as a nurse and my hat's off to bedside nurses. You know, I did it for a few years.
Oh no, I've got a great story.
Met a lot of great people. I ended up I was working night shift at Stanford, and it's brutal, man. I was driving from Livermore to Palo Alto, night shift. And especially now with the COVID stuff, I can't imagine, you know, working in the units wearing a mask for 12 hours a day. But I transitioned out of that. And that's kind of when the license, it's a long story, but do you want me to get into that?
What are you doing now?
Okay. So let me see.
Are you talking about what you're doing now, the case manager?
No, that's boring.
Well, let me tell you one story, because right now you are a case manager. I remember a story. You and I were standing around and you said, "Oh, I'm just so tired of wiping butts." Literally what he said. And I said, as a friend, well, you know you don't have to, right?
Yeah.
And within about a month, you had another job.
There's other body parts. No, I remember that conversation, and I was working at Sutter. Antioch. That's where I was working. And I remember just being in the back. I just couldn't imagine myself doing that for the rest of my life. And you know what? That's another, I think, ingredient in the pie or whatever, is that you know, our parents' generation really was like, you graduated, you got your job, you stayed there for 40 years, you worked your way up, you retired, you had a pension, that was it.
Done.
That thought has always kind of freaked me out. And maybe I'm restless, compulsive, I don't know what you call it, but I've never really felt like, this is it, I'm here, this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. So I'm the
same way.
Yeah, and so just like you all these other endeavors, you know, and
now I'm doing a podcast.
Now, what's next? And yeah, I just remember standing there looking around, and there's some of the other nurses, you know, and again, if that's your calling, that's amazing, and then you can provide care for people, you know.
Well, we need them. We all need them.
For sure.
And it's like, just piggybacking off what you said, my mom worked at a factory called LK. LK is a water cooler. Like every school has an LK water cooler. You press the button, the water comes out the top, you drink it.
Oh,
you know?
Okay.
So she worked there for 35 years before she retired.
No way. Yeah.
She started on the
button line.
The line. She was pretty much doing the button.
She made the buttons.
I worked there for a summer when I lived back in Illinois.
Oh, and you were like, how?
No, my first job was to take a plastic bag and put it over top of the finished water cooler.
All day.
And then it would go down to somebody else.
For 8 hours.
But that was my deal. And I was just hoping and praying if I could get down to use the screwdriver, the power screwdriver, how much better my life would be. That's what I was doing. And I'm not making fun of it, because there's people that are doing that today.
Right.
And my mom started there, and she became an inspector. and she stayed there for 35 years.
Yeah.
They offered her a job to go up higher in the organization, but she wanted to stay on as a union employee.
Oh, sure.
So she could protect herself.
She's like, no. You see the guy making the buttons over there? You see the guy with the plastic bag?
That's right. I used to do the plastic bag.
That's crazy. No.
But I'm the same way. And Carissa, my wife, and I have talked about it before. I very rarely stay in a house longer than 3 or 4 years before we're off to something else, off doing something else, and it's weird.
I mean, moving sucks so bad that actually us too. I mean, we've moved. We were Livermore here, Rockland. I don't know what that is, but I think that's part of it. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the people you talk to have multiple things going on, or have hopped from this industry to this industry to this, you know. But what, yeah, so I remember looking on Indeed, and I found this company, and it sounded interesting. It was in the field, being a nurse case manager, traveling to appointments, and it was work from home and the field, so I wasn't in an office. There's nobody standing over my shoulder.
Right.
I look back, I laugh now because Jenna looks at me now, and she's like, basically, you found the closest thing to not having a job. I was like, well, you know, because it's like I'm my own boss, basically, you know. But the byproduct of that was that it gave me a lot of free time because I was on my own schedule, basically. And then that's kind of how the music stuff now kicked up.
That's a good segue.
Bing.
Now, City Wolf.
Yes.
Tell people about what you're doing now.
I made a concerted effort to try and rekindle the Thriving Ivory thing with their piano player. And soon after we got back together and started writing some stuff, or he wrote some stuff and showed me, we were approached by...
So hold on a second. Did he write all the lyrics too?
Yeah.
So you had to...
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, you know, really my contribution was just my vocal presence, and I would sometimes he would suggest words and I'd feel uncomfortable. Would be, you know, I'd be like, dude, nobody knows what you're talking about, you know. But we were approached by Lippman Entertainment. I think they saw like a Facebook post or something, and one of the partners there, Jeremy Lopez, who was a fan, an old school fan of Thriving Ivory, and had been to shows. Now, you know, 8 years later or whatever, was now one of the partners of this management firm. And like I said, Michael Lippman, who was the father who started it, was David Bowie's manager.
He was okay.
Yeah, he was all right. He was all right. Was Bowie's manager, and George Michael, for his whole career until he did, not Wham, but maybe after that. And then Matchbox and Rob Thomas as a solo artist. So they reached out and initially first just tried to help Thriving Ivory again. And it became apparent pretty quickly that it wasn't going to work. And they were exposed to some of the craziness, and it didn't work. So, but they pulled me aside and said, hey, you know, there's a different opportunity now with all this, you know, streaming services. There's so much media, okay? Netflix, Hulu, online, you know, digital, you know, there's so much, there's so much content now that a lot of these companies want and need music wise, that you can make a career as an artist as a sync dash licensing. So sync, SYNC, is a term that you hear thrown around, sync licensing. And it basically means that they've synced up your song with some show or an ad. Okay. For anybody listening that doesn't know what that is. So I went to a meeting he took me to meet one of the guys that runs a place in LA called Position Music. And they're one of the big dogs down there. And he played me some stuff, and I really liked it. It sounds a lot like, sort of reminiscent of City Wolf stuff. You know, I put my own flavor on it. And, but I heard it and said, I thought, man, you know, I can do this, and I can write this by myself. If I can find a producer, you know, I could really do this. And so that's what I did. I was signed by a place down there called a Riptide Music Group, and I did my first record for them, and then a bunch of other singles and stuff. So probably like 14 or 15 songs for them. And just within the last year, have branched out and signed deals with other licensing companies, and you get to maintain the credibility of still being a quote unquote artist and writing songs that fit a brand or an image, but also the fun of sometimes writing for specific things. Like I said, the briefs, or writing something that a show might request, they're looking for, so it's been cool for me, and I don't have to go, I don't have to travel, I don't have to go anywhere, so yeah, it's just been a very Forrest Gump-esque sometimes when I look at the trajectory, and
well, it's different, but it's a great creative outlet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So without having to be on a bus and not showering for 3 days. And
right. Well, sometimes I still don't shower for 3 days, but
well, you're trying to save water.
Yeah.
So who are some of the folks that you're working with right now, as far as some of the other creative folks that you're partnering up with?
Sure. So the gentleman that I did the first batch of songs with was a producer down there. This goes by The Under. He's an awesome artist in his own right with his own stuff that he does. And just in the last year, we had a bunch of stuff, really cool placements. We were in a couple songs in the new season of Lucifer, that I think is on the air right now. A couple Call of Duty commercials, which is cool. Video game, which Jeffrey thought was super cool.
I bet.
Yeah. It was funny because when when the ad came out and I could tell it was the song, I gathered him and maybe my wife, or we were all sitting there waiting to hear it. Check it out, guys. And they part of the licensing agreement, is that they're paying for full use of the song. So you send them all the stem files, all the tracks, and they can do whatever they want with it.
Right.
And it was all instrumental until like the very last 2 seconds. You heard me go like, yeah, and then it cut out, And I was like, dang it. Like, I swear. Yeah, some Amazon Prime trailers, and that cheesy, what's it called? The Circle on Netflix, that reality show, they use a bunch of stuff. And a WWE, Fox Sports. Yeah. So it's been cool, and like I said, I mean, even with this, we were talking earlier, a lot of these songs I wrote and recorded in late 2018. So it even took that long, even for this stuff to come to fruition. And so that's where, looking back, I think some of the optimism and like perseverance and that I developed, maybe some of it was inherent that we were just born with, or through the band days, I was kind of able to, this wasn't as big of a deal. Well, plus because I with the kids now, your attention's divided. Well,
just think about something you said earlier, that, Angels on the Moon got popular 6 years after you wrote it.
Yeah.
So here you are writing all this music right now,
right, and
recording it. And, of course, we expect it to take off right away.
Right.
But, it might take a while with all the different things with production and all the rest of the stuff goes on. You're doing amazing things, and it's really cool to see the progression from when you and I met to what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
And, it's really cool. I can't wait to see what else is going to happen.
I started working with a rapper this year named Easy McCoy, which has kind of turned everything upside down for me. Because, and it's cooler because I don't have to write the verse, really. I just come up with the hook, and then it's like, okay, we're done here, But
plus, rappers are cool.
Yeah, well, it kind of lends credibility to we just did a photo shoot in LA.
So do you have street cred now?
Yeah, it doesn't matter where, New York, LA. No, it's funny, our dynamic, because I'm like the nerdy guy out of the two of us, but we are going to have an 8-song full record come out next year on Position Music, and he's been in this game for a few years longer than me, and I mean, probably unbeknownst to most your listeners have probably heard him. He's the Seattle Seahawks theme song right now is him. A song called Energy. Hard Knocks was at the Fox Sports show. Hard Knocks. He's the theme song for Hard Knocks. And then he had a trailer for the show on Stars Power. A new Under Armour commercial with The Rock. So he's everywhere. So for me, it was really cool because he kind of elevated my game and really showed me what you can do, you know. So it's been really cool. Yeah, and I just feel cooler. I found out that I'm lacing my shoes wrong. Oh, no. So I rolled into the studio. It was him and this producer Cairo. They're both way cooler than me. And I came in and I had some new Nikes on. I thought it was cool. And he goes, this guy's about to run a marathon. So those shoes are so tight, they're never coming off. So I guess I'm tying them wrong.
Oh my God. Did you retie them?
Well, these are beat. Yeah, these are just like my junky shoes. No, I didn't. Next time I see him, I'm gonna have them laced. I think what he means is you're supposed to
go over the top.
Straight across. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Yeah, I don't know. They were making fun of me.
I'm never running a marathon.
Yeah, they're never coming off.
Oh, that's great. So let's talk a little bit about addiction.
Sure. I don't know what you're talking about.
I have no idea. Me neither. So everybody knows that I deal with addiction, and I like to come in here and talk a little bit with other folks that are dealing with the same kind of crap. What do you do to stay away from some of the problems that you've dealt with before in your life and you're dealing with on a daily basis?
I'm hardwired, you know, to lean that way. You know, my dad, his father's, you know, probably all the way back to Oklahoma and Texas, which is where they're from. And because I didn't have, when I look back at some of the crazy stuff and the self-destructive behaviors that I had when I was in my, you know, my 20s and stuff, I had no outward, you know, reason. I wasn't abused. My childhood was fine, you know.
I thought we were going to talk about the abuse.
Yeah. Yeah. But because, you know, I had a great childhood. I wasn't missing anything. Right. So that must mean that there's something else going on, right?
Right.
And I tried many times to get sober when I was in my 20s. I feel like, and I'm sure you could relate to this, is that I didn't have enough to lose yet. That feeling of being invincible. And I really didn't, and there were not enough people to hold me accountable.
Yeah.
I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids yet. I didn't have a job. And I was on tour 2,000 miles away. They're not going to know. Right. You know, or if the people in this town or the bar or whatever, girl or whatever, finds out, well, I'm going to leave tomorrow anyway.
Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah. So, I mean, that all contributed. Now, and what I have learned is that the recipe for me, I mean, it's all wacky right now because of Corona, you know. And so I think people feel a little more isolated right now anyways. But what I realized for me was, obviously the touring was like a no-go. If I jumped back into, I mean, honestly, if I jumped back into that and I was gone, it'd be sketchy.
It's a slippery slope.
Slippery slope. You know, I know like those, you know, Aerosmith and those guys, I think they tour with not sponsors, but like people with them, you know. I know like from stories from our manager, Eddie Money had like a handler, you know, someone to keep them out of trouble, you know. The recipe for me has been having people around me that I am accountable to, you know. My dad, my aunt, you know, you, Brayman, you know, people that are, if not a drive away, a phone call away. When I look back, the times that I was at my worst or lowest or really making mistakes all the time is when I had really withdrawn and was isolated in some form or another, whether it was
Right.
I was just going to work and then home, work, home, something like that, or physically isolated, I was gone, you know. And then, and not to say that like my kids saved me or whatnot, because there's been some hiccups in the past 10 years since my kids were born. But what I noticed was once they were born and I was a father, that all of a sudden I had a new sense that I never had before. That was like, whoa, okay, I got to be around,
Right.
you know. But that just shows you how powerful addiction is. That even given that, there's still times when I drove drunk, right? Even though in the back of your mind, you know, now you have this new thing that you can lose, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. I always find that, you know, it's, I've heard it before from other folks that I lean on in the program that I'm in, you know, that it's just back there doing push-ups. And if you're, you know, leaning on your laurels, then there's just a matter of time before you're done.
Can you lean on a laurel?
I don't know what it is.
I think it's your butt, right?
I'm going to rest on it or lean on it or something.
You ever poked your laurel?
They always say, you know, if you're going to go hang out at the beach, you're probably going to get sand on you.
Yeah, sure.
You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I just, I try to stay around people that are positive, people that aren't going to screw me over.
Yeah.
And that just kind of push me in the right direction.
Yeah.
Because before I wasn't hanging around those people at all.
Yeah.
So
you were under the stage.
I was under the stage going la 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 la.
Would be creepy if there was someone under there though.
Right.
Hey,
what are you doing under here?
go bright-eyed. Hey.
This is my spot. Oh. So, what is your favorite book and why?
Oh man, I knew you were going to ask me. This was tough. I hadn't read anything like since I was in high school, and then just recently with driving back and forth to LA, I started listening to a ton of audiobooks. So it's like I've read more in the past couple of years than I went back and reread Catcher in the Rye.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't read it since high school, I guess. I love that book. It's really short. It's a super raw, and I read that people were almost weirded out when he wrote that, because he kind of wrote that book and then that was it, and he kind of disappeared. How he identified, or how he was able to present that 16-year-old kid like so accurately. And in the story, the kid, the Holden Caulfield, have you ever read Catcher in the Rye? Okay. He's getting into trouble because he's shrugging off everything in his life, right? And he's recognizing everything as phony. Everybody's phony. And when you read the book, you're realizing, well, yeah, he's right, you know, and he's kind of sees through the facade of everything, and you know, he ends up with a prostitute in New York or whatever, and I think now, the older I am, I appreciate the realness, you know, especially, you know, the music business, you know, you deal with a lot of, you got to filter your way through to find your people, you know. There's a lot of people down there that are songwriters, puppeteers, screenwriters / gymnast, firewalker, you know, and you gotta send some trial and error, you know, I'm never working with that person again, you know, or, and so when you do find people that are real, they do what they say they're going to do, they deliver it when they say, you know, that I appreciate that. And I recognized that that's what he was rebelling against in that book was that phony, you know.
What's a reason we all have to read it?
Yeah.
Or we're supposed to read it.
Yeah.
Some of us do and some of us don't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I definitely, maybe I think I did in high school. It was short enough.
That's me too. It's
yeah,
it's one of the only books that I actually read in high school.
I read that in 1984.
Yeah.
Because I think they were both under 200 pages, maybe.
Yeah, as soon as it went over 200, I'm like, I'm out, bro.
Yeah.
I got things to do.
Right. And, you know, little Susie, the straight A behind you, you're missing out on a great story, you know.
So the last question that I ask everybody on this podcast has to do with true ambition.
Okay.
So where you've been, what you've been through, what you've experienced, what is your true ambition in your career? And what is your true ambition in your personal life? Go.
My true ambition in my personal life is to be a better person all around, physically, mentally. Got that Corona 20. I'm trying to shake right now. You look good, by the way.
Thank you.
You lose weight.
I got rid of Corona 50.
You got a Corona 50? No,
Yeah.
you didn't.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it took me a year. So I started before COVID hit, but then I kept it going.
Wow. Good Lord. That's awesome.
Well, it's not. I started out at 333 pounds. So.
No, you weren't. Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I just listened that Matthew McConaughey Rogan interview that got me all fired up. You know, I listened to that, and then you listened to the one with him and David Goggins, the SEAL, the ex-SEAL.
Oh yeah, amazing.
Yeah, did you read it? Did you read that book? It's like been the number one like forever. Anyways, he's gnarly. He's like basically his idea is that you have to do something uncomfortable every day.
Right.
Okay, I'm not that, you know, but just trying to work on myself, you know, trying to be a better person, a better employee, a better father. Nowadays, with so much going on, I look into the future with social media, the negativity. You know, Jeffrey's got a cell phone. He's 10 now. I think I think it's maybe a little more challenging, gonna be for our generation than it was for our parents. You know,
right?
I mean, I remember my parents saying, "Well, just go outside, be back,
come back at dark,
come back at dark." You know, like what? I would never do that. No,
right?
Never. The flip side is there's no way they're going to be able to get away with half of the shit we got, because you can you can track them, you can see where they are on their phone. But I remind him of that. And he goes, "Shut up, let me play Fortnite." The career wise, you know, I would be lying if I said that my dream was to be a nurse case manager till I'm, 65 or whatever. It was great for me to be able to be a nurse and experience that and support my family when they were babies and everything. And now as I transition into this music career again, slowly but surely in this new route, I would love to be able to do that full on, It's always hard for me when I'm going down to LA for a week, the first week of November, to record for a week straight. And it's always hard mentally to come back, and it's like the next Monday I've got to open up like my work email, and all these emails come in, and I have to almost just like shift my brain from creative mode to like work email mode, and I hate that transition. I hate coming back, and not that I hate what I'm doing with this job, because I'm still helping people in a different way. I just wish that I didn't have to, go through that.
Well, it's right there in front of you.
Yeah.
So if you just keep working your ass off and doing what you're doing, because you got a God-given gift that not too many people have.
Your hand up to the camera is reminding me of a really funny story. I'll tell you when you're done.
Well, no, go ahead.
Okay. We were in Nashville and we were borderline. I'm looking right at the camera because it's going to all tie in here. We were borderline like breaking up. We were shooting our second music video in Nashville. It was this huge. He had just shot some Britney Spears video. It was like 80 grand budget, big deal. And we had finished shooting for the day, and I could tell he was messed up. I don't know what he had taken, but his eyes were barely open, and he's sitting at his piano. And we were taking our jackets off. Thanks, everybody. It's a wrap. Wait. And he calls everybody over, the crew, craft services, everybody. And me and the rest of the people are like, oh my God. Please don't, what are you doing? And he goes, wait a minute. And like, I'm the lead singer. Like, come on, okay? And I didn't pull any of this shit. Like, I was like, all right, what do you want us to do in the video? Yeah. Obviously, I'll be in it more probably because I'm singing.
Yeah.
But he calls up everybody over and he goes, I haven't told you this before.
No.
He calls everybody over and he goes, all right, so like right here in the song when I hit this note, wait, bring the camera over. And the guy's on the dolly. He's like, bringing it over. I'm going to hit the note and then I'm just going to reach out to the camera. And the camera was right here. He goes, I'm going to go like this. And then you zoom out. And we were
Did everybody laugh?
No. I think the guy was trying to like appease us and we were just like, oh my God. So I think they filmed it. It didn't end up in the video.
God, if you could get a copy of that, that would be amazing.
I'll never forget that because I was so. We had a photo shoot once, and we got to work with some awesome creative people in general, whether or not people know their name or not. And this guy David Bergman, amazing photographer. He's Bon Jovi's like in-house photographer, tours with them, does all their stuff, and we were doing a photo shoot and oh man, this guy always shoots Bon Jovi on the internet. Oh, look at his pictures. It's so cool. I'm nervous, okay, we want to be cool. We're there for 2 hours. We got to make sure we get good shots. And he came and his eyes are, half open. I'm like, oh, damn it, And so we're taking pictures and we get the rough and unedited videos back and his eyes are closed in every single picture. So the guy had to go back in and Photoshop open eyes. So if you Google the band name, I won't tell you which photo. I'll let people figure it out. But there's one of the first couple where we're against like an orange background. And you can totally tell. Anyways, I got to laugh about it now. Looking back on that stuff at the time, it was terrifying because you were this constant sense of fragility, like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Please don't ruin this. Please don't ruin it. Right. And almost a cliche now, I look back on it. And I think it's something you hear a lot. The more success someone has, sometimes the more destructive they get. It's like they can't take it or they feel they don't deserve it. I don't know.
No, going through and writing this book right now, I'm looking back on all of the self-destructive things that I did.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I mean, everything that I ruined.
Yeah.
The more successful I got, the more I tried to ruin things.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I mean, just looking back on it now, it was one thing when I went through my 12-step program with my sponsor.
Yeah.
And looked at everything and like had a new perspective of my life. But now actually going through and writing all of it down, and it's unbelievable to look at the self-destructive attitude that I had.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I'm sitting here talking to you right now.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't know what that is. I don't know.
Oh, it's a place that I had to get to for me to drop to my knees and go, okay,
right.
I don't know shit.
Right.
So let me start over, hit the reset button, and try to do this the right way.
You know what, though? Your ability to do that, because not everybody can do that. We know that, right?
No,
a very small percentage.
We're the blessed ones.
Right. And this individual I'm talking about didn't have the ability to do that. Mm-hmm. You did. I think that gift of self-inspection and self-awareness, you have to have a little bit of it to even take that first step. And then once you get down the road in that particular program that you are referencing, that's one of the awesome gifts that you get and goes on like hyperdrive, is that all of a sudden now you've got this ability to do something that 99% of the people driving around out there road raging, flipping people off, being racist or doing whatever, don't have the ability
what if it is exactly what we talked about before, which is the naivety to think that maybe I can do it.
Yeah.
Just like owning a company, just like recording music, just like becoming independently wealthy off of recording music that's getting licensed to all these shows. There's some people that are in my life that I talk to that are just like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I cannot do it. I cannot live a day sober.
Right.
You know, and my heart breaks for those people because it's just like, no, I'm sitting here right in front of you.
Yeah.
And there's no reason that I should be able to do it other than the fact that why not me?
I think you're right. I think it's part of the same branch of traits. Yeah, and you can be too smart too, which is another weird one.
Never had that. I've been too dumb.
Well, I know. No, but like you look at a lot of these guys, you know, some of your like hugely successful people, you know, dropped out of college or they didn't do well. You know, I think Einstein was like horrible at math. I know I learned that. And so it's not necessarily, I think you can be too smart or over analytical. Okay, well, we can start this bit. No, but I don't know. This might happen. This might happen. This might happen. This might happen. So there is something to having a bit of blinders on. I mean, think about before you started this place, how many variables could you have gone down? Well, there's these existing companies. Now we can't compete with them. I can't do this. I've never done this before. You know, and a lot of people are I'm analytical, but I don't let that, stop me.
Right.
You know?
And thank God. And what I was saying before with my hand out like this was that you got a God-given gift that's amazing, which is your voice. And just keep doing what you're doing. And a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, we'll do another one of these.
Heck yeah.
And talk about it. And we'll come back here and have some more fun.
Yep.
And I appreciate you being here today.
Absolutely, bro.
So
anytime. Clayton
Stroope, True Ambition Podcast. We're signing off. Thanks for being here, bro.
Awesome.
Awesome.
The True Ambition Podcast is brought to you by IT Avalon. For more information and links to other episodes, please visit www.trueambition.org. Now, go find your true ambition.